Dear friends, today I'd like to talk about some of my experiences, and I will like to share it with my young colleague and want to give some advices based on my experiences. Some of the young colleagues do not get proper environment for the growth, especially at the beginning of their career. Many of you may not get chance to work in the institution of their choice, and some do not get proper work of their interest in the good institution. I also face this problem, and therefore I am sharing some of my experiences, but this may not hold true for all of you. In the beginning, in 1992, when I joined Department of Surgery as assistant professor in neurosurgery, there was no separate neurosurgery ward. The neurosurgery patients were admitted in different surgical wards. There were no neurosurgery resident. General surgery residents on rotation used to look after neurosurgery patient, and by the time they understand some neurosurgery, they are posted out. There were no trained neuro nurses. There was no separate operation theater. I used to share general surgery operation theater, and usually after when their list is finished, sometime it is after the infected case. There were no equipment. There was no fellow neurosurgeon. I was lone neurosurgeon for 10 years and was on call for 24/7. So there was extra stress. There was very limited budget. When I used to go to administrator for some help or for purchase of some instruments, the common answer used to be that there is no budget. There were no facilities for additional training or learning opportunity. Now, after 30 years of my service, we have School of Excellence in neurosurgery, and we have now 135 beds for neurosurgery. There are MCH residents and neuroendoscopy fellow. We have now trained nurses. We have 6 operation theaters dedicated for neurosurgery and biplanar DSA, and we have almost all modern facilities in the ward and also in the operation theaters. There are 12 neurosurgery faculties working. We have created a budget for neurosurgery that I'll discuss later on how we have managed that, and we have a skill lab to improve skill, and each consultant can choose a super specialty branch of their choice. One should choose a comparatively new super specialty for early recognition. After some year of practice of general neurosurgery, I choose neuroendoscopy after 8 years of my service in 2000. Now the question is how to choose new super specialty. So for that you have to have sufficient thinking. There should be brainstorming. The branch should be unique. It should be interesting, and that should be possible in the local setup. There should be good indications of that particular specialty. It should be affordable, and you should be knowing something about that branch, and there should be availability of mentor and training centers so that you can improve your skill. The clinical outcome also should be better or comparable to the existing methods available. So if the answer is yes, then you further improve your skill, learn from the expert, visit other centers to learn that branch, attend live operative and cadaveric workshop, invite expert faculty in your place, watch live surgeries and video, practice on models, start with simple case and then you do the complex cases. You can also take help of your seniors and mentor by adopting these technique. I am sure you will succeed, and then you should publish and present your work and keep improving your skill. But if the answer is no, you are not able to do good work or may not be able to learn that particular branch, in that case, you have to think of some other specialty. To know the detail, you can refer to this article which we have published. My concept of learning new technique is adding D curve in Scott's parabola as shown here. In Scott's parabola, there are three stages of learning: stage A, B, and C. The stage A is idea of new technique. Stage B is the initial enthusiasm because of the advantage of the new technique. So you are encouraged. And stage C is the decrease enthusiasm because of the limitations of the technique. We all know that there are advantages and limitations of every technique, and so initially you may get good results and you are excited, but later on you might choose more difficult cases, or because of the limitation of the technique there may be complications. So most colleagues leave technique at this stage, at the stage C. So what I suggest is that you should not get disheartened. You should overcome the limitations of that technique by continuous learning, which helps in mastering the technique. So add curve D after this stage C, and you shorten the stage C. The limitations of the technique should be overcome, and then you become master. So in short, learning a new technique is equivalent to overcoming limitations of the technique. One should love that branch which you want to learn and must devote at least 50% or more of your total time in that branch. This is the mistake most people do it. They want to learn a technique, but they don't want to devote sufficient time in that particular branch, and they want to do everything, which is difficult. So one should not be jack for all trades, but master of none. So it is better to be master of one thing rather than knowing little bit of everything. My love for neuroendoscopy is reflected that I went for training abroad for neuroendoscopy in 2000 after 8 years of my stay in the department. And after coming from the training, I wanted to have instrument for endoscopic surgery, but could not succeed because of the limitations of budget in the government institution. So I purchased my own instruments in 2002. My interest in neuroendoscopy can be reflected by my presentation in the conference or in the webinar after 2004. Out of the total 232 presentations, 227, that is more than 98% of my presentations were on endoscopic surgery. I want to stress that you have to give sufficient time and you should be after that branch, then only you can learn things. First endoscopic presentation in NSI conference at Indore in 2004 was my initial experience of 78 cases, and I attended almost all neuroendoscopic workshop in India. So I could not afford to go to foreign countries for learning neuroendoscopy because of the financial constraints. Majority of my publications are also on endoscopy after the year 2005. Out of the total 165 publications, 103 are on endoscopy, and almost all of them as either a first author or a corresponding author. This suggests again my interest in neuroendoscopy, and you should persist with a definite purpose. My first endoscopic publication was in 2005 in Neurology India on thalamic abscess. I started a regular 6 monthly 1 week neuroendoscopy fellowship training program in March 2010, and we trained more than 1000 fellows from India and from foreign country. We also started the first university certified 1 year neuroendoscopy fellowship training program in India in April 2017. My interest in neuroendoscopy is also reflected that I served as president of Neuroendoscopy Society of India to 2018 to 19, performed live endoscopic surgery as national guest faculty in over 58 workshops across India. We published a neuroendoscopy book in 2020, The Neuroendoscopic Surgery, a comprehensive approach, which describes almost all neuroendoscopic technique. We also describe many innovative endoscopic technique for the first time. Keep your mind open, step out from comfort zone. You should be ready to relocate to the other cities if you don't get the desired work. Do what is needed in the given facilities in the beginning, not what you want to do, as shown in this famous quote, which say start by doing what is necessary, and that means you should do things what are required in that particular setup or the institution. That might just mean that you start doing head injury, which is the main requirement of that place, and then you do what is possible. Gradually keep improving and do more and more work, and later on you will find that you are doing what you were thinking, what was your aim, which you were thinking that this is not possible in the setup. Avoid frustrations. If you don't get facilities of desired work, show your work in the beginning and then you progress. You will find some good administrator or senior for your help later on when you show your work. Develop good relations with politicians, administrative officers, and other colleagues like anesthesia department, anatomy, surgery, ENT, ortho, etc. It is not difficult because most of these departments, the politicians or even administrator need your help on day-to-day basis. Avoid ego. Even if the politician or administrator in your college or in your workplace is less qualified than you, which is usually the case. Create additional budget for the repair and the purchase of the instrument which are urgently required, because asking from the institution may take time. So you can create a budget from saving of the conferences or workshop which you should conduct regularly. You can take help from the government or non-government organizations. You can ask for educational initiative from some pharma companies. There are corporate social responsibilities various companies have, and you can request them to help you for the good cause, and you can take ICMR or DST projects and purchase some of the things which you need. Enjoy and love your work. Give priority to work to gain better learning opportunity than financial gain. Find a mentor, work with the expert. It gives opportunity to develop valuable professional connections and branding. Keep learning new things. You should learn at least 2 new procedures every year, at least in the beginning of your career, and you should have long-term plans. You should avoid the short-term gains. Teaching the learn a skill to other is vital. Otherwise, the master skill may die, and also it helps you to prevent extra strains because your colleague can do half of your work when you do a long surgery. Develop a good team and competent successors, publish in the journal and present your work in the conference. And I practice this. You can accept administrative post at the end of your service or your career, especially in last 5 to 10 years of your service. Holding an administrative post has both advantages and limitations. The advantages are that it can help in better developing in your department, and it also gives more opportunity to your junior colleague to practice, learn skill in your absence, especially in the operation theater. The limitations are that it takes some time from your already limited working hours. Recognize deficiencies, find solutions, persistence, and a strong desire to find solution helps. Write difficulties face and their solution during surgeries on daily basis. Difficulties should be considered as opportunities. Many innovations which we did were possible because of the non-availability of costly instruments in our setup. We devised probably the best inexpensive tubular brain retractor due to non-availability of costly retractor in our setup, and this is the example. This is a simple silicone tube which is very soft. There are unique feature of this tubular retractor. There are two unique features. One is that this tube is soft, so it is unlikely to cause damage to the brain. When there is a raised pressure, rather than this tube causing pressure on the brain, the tube collapses. So it does not cause any harm to the brain. The second point is that there is a longitudinal cut on the tube. Because of the longitudinal cut, it can be folded and it can be introduced through the small opening. So you can fold this tube and put it inside the brain through the small opening. Second is that because of this cut, the tube can be easily folded. It can change the size of the tube dynamically. When there's a raised pressure, the tube gets folded. There is no harm done to the brain. This is the video of the surgery. This is a large tumor, intraventricular tumor. The marker CT, we did not have navigation in the beginning. So with the marker tube CT, we localized the tumor, the center, and then made the small opening. So, no deficiency can prevent you from doing good work if you are determined. And these are the pile sutures which prevents brain sagging. And then you put the nasal speculum in closed limb position, and then put this silicone tubular retractor folded, and after that you place the endoscope with the help of endoscope holder, and with the help of two hand, using bimanual technique, you can remove the tumor, which I'll not go into the detail. We also face difficulty in doing chronic subdural hematoma surgery. These difficulties were mainly two. One is that there is a limited space for introduction of an endoscope and two instruments. And the second is that there is a difficulty in visualization of the distal hematoma cavity by the scope as shown in E. In this diagram, the the area shown in E, that is the distal chronic subdural hematoma cavity, it is difficult to visualize because of the overlying brain. So even the endoscope will not be able to visualize this hematoma cavity. This novel retractor allows visualization of the most distal portion, and therefore you can easily take it out. We devised this novel brain retractor, which is made from the tubular retractor. It was cut in two half. The distal portion of the this novel retractor is tapered for ease of introduction. The proximal part has three sutures. The two parallel sutures do not allow migration of the tube inside or outside. The middle sutures prevent migration of the tube inside. And the advantage of our retractor is that it creates more space for introduction of three instrument or even more, and it provides dynamic brain retraction. It allows visualization of the most distal part of the curved hematoma cavity. We all know that the hematoma cavity is not straight, it is curved, and the most distal part is obscured by the brain parenchyma. By retraction of the retractor, you can see the most distal part and take it out. It protects the chronic subdural hematoma membrane from injury, and it also helps in better and quicker suction irrigation of the hematoma. This is a short video of chronic subdural hematoma. The hematoma, I'll go fast forward. So coagulation of the outer membrane up to the dural margin, and then remove the hematoma. You need novel retractor to visualize the distal portion. So the hematoma is being removed by the suction. So before introduction of novel retractor, you have to coagulate and cut the bridging vessels, otherwise accidentally they may get torn. So this is the retractor, which can dynamically retract the brain, and you can see the most distal part of the cavity. We described many innovative techniques, including new technique to avoid blind area in endoscopic surgery. We face difficulty in introduction of the distal instrument in the straight line. We all know that in endoscopic surgery, it is better to put instrument and endoscope in a triangular fashion. Endoscope and the two instruments should be in the triangular fashion. But there are surgeries where you are forced to keep endoscope and the two instrument in a straight line. The example is partial corpectomy. The bone removal is very small. There is a narrow corridor, so you have to put in endoscope here, and if you put the drill here in the middle, and then you try to put in suction because there is a oozing, so suction will not be visualized and you will not be able to introduce suction. We face this problem. So what we proposed is that we should introduce suction first and keep this suction at a definite depth during surgery, and then you introduce your drill and keep drilling and do the decompression and keep suction at a definite depth. This you can make out very easily. If there is a pooling of blood, that means your suction has been withdrawn slightly. So put it gently in, and the hematoma will be removed. And if you find some indentation of the dura, then you will know that you are going little deeper, and that should not be allowed. the basic thing is keep suction at particular depth. Using this technique of putting the distal instrument first and then introducing the middle instrument later on allows you to work in a straight line. And this was not described earlier by any of the authors. We also devised an indigenous inexpensive practice model on neuroendoscopic learning. This is just a simple model and it does not cost anything. It is made of earthen pot and the hole is made on this. The back side of this pot you can keep the camera and the LED light source, and then using various indigenous thing like ice cream stick. This can simulate a lamina. Place some mark on this, and on the mark only, to test your precision, you should remove this ice cream stick on the desired marking. So the laminectomy can be simulated. You can put in the ring without touching the other pin. So hand-eye coordination can be learned, and then you can learn how to use scissors precisely on a desired point on the square. And if you touch to the surrounding area, there may be alarm. So that shows that your precision is wrong. One can find out how many times the alarm comes. So it shows that your tracking movements under endoscopes are not good. So if there are more alarms, that means you are in the learning of the endoscopic surgery. Simple technique can be learned, and the same way using this Foley's catheter kept inside the foam, the bulb can simulate dura. The bulb of the catheter can be inflated, and then you remove the foam superficial without injuring the bulb of the catheter. And even the vascular models also can be made. You can practice how to control bleeding using these simple, inexpensive practice model. I'm thankful to my teachers. Thank you.